Okay. Hello, everybody. Good morning to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for tuning in. We are live on Facebook. So hello to all of you on Facebook. Thank you so much for coming, for joining, for your interest. We have an audience here on Zoom as well. So good morning to all of you again. We said hello very quickly before we clicked the button to go live on Facebook. So very quick introduction. I will be your host today for this information session, and I work at the US Embassy at the American Center. Together with me, I will have the Education USA advisor, and I will also have the consular officer or a consular officer from the US Embassy to help with all of the information and the questions about the student visa, which is today's topic. Maybe they can say hello very quickly, unmute themselves, and then we'll carry on with the introduction and be back with them.
Hi guys, looking forward to talking to you today.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us and for your time. And we know that we will learn so much from you about the student visa. So very quickly about the American Center and what we do. We are a space located at the US Embassy. We are currently offering virtual events. For obvious reasons, we are still offering virtual events. A lot of them were offered on Zoom, but we occasionally also stream to Facebook. We are exploring other tools and formats for virtual events, and we hope to resume our in-person programming at some point as well. So thank you so much for your interest, continued interest, and for joining us, whether virtually or in person or whatever. And we really hope that these virtual events have been able to reach a wider audience and come closer to you, or bring the US closer to you, or give you opportunities and information that might have been difficult for you to get if you weren't able to come physically and be at the American Center at the Embassy physically. So we're really happy to be able to reach all of you wherever you are. Studying in the United States is something that a lot of Tunisians are very interested in, and this is one of the pillars that our American Center at the Embassy works on. So we like to provide information sessions to you to clarify the process. We know that it can get intimidating and daunting, and it's just scary, kind of, just because it might not be very clear. And we are very fortunate to have a program at the State Department called the EducationUSA program. This is your official source of information whenever you're looking for guidance about the process of studying in the US. And so in Tunisia, we have an educational advisor, the EducationUSA advisor, who we are honored to have with us today to give us information. And her office is located at Amidist. Amidist is our partner, and we work very closely on offering information session as well as other things. Today's topic is about the student visa more specifically, and we have dealt with other topics in previous sessions, and we will explain a little bit more about that in a few seconds. A few housekeeping rules now. As I've mentioned at the beginning, and for those of you who have just tuned in on Facebook or have just joined us on Zoom, we have an audience on Zoom, and we are streaming this video to Facebook at the US Embassy's Facebook page, as well as the Education USA Tunisia Facebook page. So we have an audience on Facebook as well. Both of you are going to be with us, and both of you are going to hopefully benefit from the information today. During the session, throughout the session, we will have a couple of questions on the screen. We have our screen shared here. I have my screen shared, and you will see that throughout the session. And we will have a couple of questions come up every now and then, and you will have to answer the questions. And we have a nice system for that. Let's start with the first question. where in Tunisia are you joining us from? And I will explain here how this is going to work. So what you need to do in order to answer this question is go to menti.com, enter the code that you see here, 166946. You will see the question on your device. You can pick the option. We have listed all of the 24 governors here, and we also provided one option that says other, just in case you're not in Tunisia at the moment. So answer the question and your responses will pop up on our screen, as you can see right now. So ideally, for this to work very smoothly, you will need 2 devices, one laptop for the live video, so you can watch the live video very clearly and you can see the shared screen. And then you have maybe a handheld device where you can go to menti.com, enter the code and respond to the questions. But you don't need to have 2 devices. If you only have 1 device, please stick around. You can make it work. Just open another tab or another browser and then go to menti.com, enter the code and answer the questions. Okay, again, for those of you who have just joined or who want to hear this again, you need to go to menti.com on whatever device, whatever browser that you have. Google Chrome is recommended, especially when we're streaming, but other browsers should work fine. The code is 166946, as you can see on the screen. There's a QR code as well. If that's an option for you, then you can snap the QR code, enter the numerical code here, and then you will see the question on your device and you can answer it. Okay, we're seeing quite a few responses coming in. That's excellent. So we have people from Ariana, Gebus, Monastir, Nebel, Sousse, Tunis, Zawen, and other. Okay, some people who are not in Tunisia as well. Excellent. Thank you all so much for joining us. You are welcome anywhere you are, and we are so happy to be able to reach you wherever you are in the country, as well as outside if you happen to be outside of the country. So that's great. I guess before we carry on, a quick disclaimer that the information that you will get today about the student visa is comes in a kind of a special time, and maybe the consular officer can say more about this. So, and because this video will be provided or available after this session on our Facebook page, we just want everybody to keep in mind that the information provided might change in the coming days or in the future. So just keep that in mind. Also keep in mind that this info session is organized at a time where we have the COVID-19 pandemic that we are still figuring out. So just keep that in mind. We are in July 2020. So keep that in mind whenever you're watching this video, and the information might change. Hopefully a lot of it will stay the same, at least for a good while, but just keep that in mind. Okay, let's see what we have next. Okay, another question that we have and we like to start with. So there are 5 steps to studying in the US in general, and this is a very nice process that the EducationUSA program has established, very clear, straightforward. So these options are listed here. They're in alphabetical order. And we just want to ask you, what do you think the right order is? Can you take a guess? Again, go to your device, whatever device you have. Here are the instructions again. Menti.com is the website that you need to go to. You have to enter the code that you see on the screen, which is 166946. And you will have the question on your device. You will see it. And you have to rank the steps based on what you think is the right order. We have asked this question in previous sessions as well. So you should know if you have joined us for previous info sessions. what is the right order of these 5 steps? What should you do first? What should you do second? What should you do third? Etc., etc. Today's info session is about applying for your student visa. So what do you think the number of this step is? It was a few seconds ago step number 4. Now it's step number 3 based on your votes. Oh, I can see a lot of people are voting. That is excellent. This is great. Wow, apply for your student visa is the second step? Okay. Let's just get the visa and go to the States. Okay. Okay. All right. You know what? Let's hear from the advisor about the correct order of these 5 steps.
So it's very interesting to see that some of you ranked the applying for the student visa as a second or third option. So sorry to break it to you, but that step should be the 4th step because before getting a visa, you should be accepted as an accredited American institution, which is like a university or a college, whether for undergraduate or graduate studies. So the step number 1 is researching your options, meaning to look for universities, to check accredited institutions, to know the major that you want to study, whether again for undergraduate studies after high school or for graduate studies for a master's or a PhD program. So all of that is very important. The second step is to get more familiar with the financial situation, which means looking for scholarships, checking your personal family budget or savings, checking the different financial aid opportunities at different universities and the types of scholarships available, but also what is the right fit for you. So I always say that step number 1 and step number 2 is a combination between finding the right fit when it comes to the university, but also find what matches your academic and professional needs. So as soon as you find the university of your dream or the right fit for you, you should start working on your application process. We mean by this your academic application, but also your financial application. So completing an application is step number 3, when you're going to go over, again, the standardized test, the different essays, recommendation letters, your academic transcripts, everything that you need to fill in to explain your profile to the universities. Then we move to step number 4. If you are accepted by the university, which means you got the admissions and you're going to be admitted to the university to start your undergraduate or graduate studies, the university will invite you, of course, formally to join the campus in the fall session, or sometimes it depends on the universities. Then you're going to apply for the student visa, and the consular officer will give you more details about the different types, how to apply, who is eligible, and the different steps that you need to perform in order to be able to go to start your studies at an American university. Step number 5 will be preparing for your departure, which is a PDO session that we will host to help you understand the cultural dynamics, the campus life on an American university, the different things to take with you, whether your own meds or any other arrangements, and also how to get involved with the International Student Office at your respective universities.
Thank you so much. That is very clear. It's great to know what the right order of the steps are, because this is really your foundation for starting the process to apply and hopefully get accepted and go study in the US. Thank you so much to the advisor. Let's see what we have next. Oh, since we talked about the 5 steps and today's session is about step number 4, we wanted to let you know that we have offered information sessions about step 1, 2, and 3 in the previous weeks, and they are all available on our Facebook page as a playlist conveniently. So this is on our Facebook page, US Embassy Tunis, and our colleagues will hopefully provide the link for this playlist in the comments on this on the Facebook Live and maybe also in the chat in Zoom here. So you can go and check out the previous information sessions that we have offered in the past, so you can catch up on the steps, the previous steps. If you haven't already, maybe you have joined us for those previous sessions, so FYI. And thank you to our colleagues who are helping us with various things in the background or in the backstage. Shout out to all of you. Thanks. Okay. Step number 4 is today's topic or focus. Maybe the advisor can explain the agenda for the day.
So as we were saying, today we will focus on step number 4, which is applying for your student visa. So we just want to let you know that these are some of the topics that we will cover. Those first things going to be before applying for your student visa, what should you have? What should you do? The types of student visas. So what is this student visa needed? Do you have any other types of visas? And also what are the different use of every visa? Then we will cover the necessary steps, the forms, the fees, the payment methods, as well as preparing for your visa interview, what to expect, what to do, and tips on how to conduct a successful interview.
Thank you. That's excellent. Okay, looking forward to all of these information. Let's see. So we're starting, first things first, with what happens before applying for your visa. And this is probably a bit of information that we have already covered also in previous sessions, but it's always great to have a refresher. So back to the advisor. Oh, actually, back to you. Sorry, advisor. Yes.
It's okay. So we just want to ask you some questions. What should you do before applying for the student visa? Again, go to menti.com and submit your votes. Anything that you can think of, what do you need to prepare? So before applying for the student visa, what do you think is needed? And also, if you are starting the process or if you already submitted your visa application, please let us know how you did it. Okay, so I can see that to be accepted to your school of choice. That's great.
Yes, that's excellent. So maybe you know the answer to this question and maybe you can simply guess. So whatever you have in mind, what do you know should happen or you should do before applying for the student visa, or what do you guess you should do before applying for the student visa? A few questions are coming in. That's excellent. We have covered all of this, reminder, but maybe you're joining us for the first time, so take a guess. If you have no clue, someone is saying, I have no clue, that's excellent. That's why we're here. So thanks for joining. You will have a lot of information, hopefully. Okay, some of the answers are saying complete online application. I think we should choose the best college that suits our future ambitions. Someone is saying check the visa type. Another is saying you should have your I-20 form from the university you committed to. Okay, so there's some people in the audience who have some familiarity with the forms. That's good. Someone is saying have a passport. You bet, that's excellent. Revise my finances and study opportunities for scholarships. Actually have no idea, that's excellent. You will have an idea after this session. Thank you so much for joining us. Someone else is saying get F1 admission from university. Okay, we'll go through the visa types with the consular officer. Okay, let's see the other options. I can scroll. Good. I-20 form from the university. Excellent. Any comments from the advisor or the consular officer about this question before we move on?
These are great answers. Good job, guys.
Great. Okay, let's move on and see, hear from the advisor directly what you should do before applying for the student visa.
So it's very good to see your votes and your different answers. And I can see like the range between I have no idea, I have no clue, and some of you who are talking about I-20 documents and passports and F1 visas. So I can see like the different diversity in the audience. So this is great. So answering this question before applying for your student visa, first you should again research your university or universities. Again, we gave you before like tips on applying at least to 5 universities to vary your chances to be accepted. So again, step number 1 is researching your options, checking the universities, the accreditation, the curriculum, and whether it's the right fit for you. It depends on the field of studies that you want to choose. It depends on your academic and professional goals. So all of that should be taken into consideration, as well as checking step number 2, financing your studies, checking the different types and the eligibility requirements for different financial aid packages, for different scholarship opportunities, for different deadlines. I always want to highlight that you should respect all of your deadlines, whether they're academic or for any other like application process or visa process. Deadlines are deadlines, and if you don't respect those deadlines, sometimes that can jeopardize your opportunity to be accepted in a program or through for a certain scholarship. The third step should be about applying to the actual schools and be accepted. As I mentioned before, the university should accept you to join their academic class for the upcoming fall. So you should be able to receive an acceptance letter, an acceptance package, whether you're an undergraduate or graduate student, and then you can apply for start your application process for your student visa.
Excellent. This is very clear. And since we are talking here about step 1, 2, and 3, which are the steps that you need to go through before applying for the visa, we just want to give you a reminder that there is a nice playlist on our Facebook page. We will provide the links to that. You should definitely go check that out if you want information about the previous steps. So that's just a reminder. Okay, the next topic for today is the types of student visas, and here we will have information from the consular officer, and maybe we can start with a question to all of you about which category the student visa falls under. So here on your device, everybody, and you will see an avatar. You will have been assigned an avatar, just a random avatar that the system gives you, just for fun. It has something fun on it, and you can enter your name or just leave the name that's already assigned to you. You will have a pseudonym or a fake name. You don't have to enter your real name. You can if you want. It's not going to appear anyways. And then click Join Quiz, and you will see the question in just a few seconds on the screen. Here, I want to remind everybody that these quizzes are just for fun. There's no winners or anything. We're not going to have a leaderboard. And also a reminder that logistically, there is a few seconds of streaming delay on Facebook. So people who are tuning in on Facebook, watching this session on Facebook, you will always see the questions on your device before you see them on the video, on the live video, if that makes sense, because of the streaming delay. So people who are joining us on Zoom have a little bit of advantage in the sense that you get the question at the same time as what you see on the screen here. I hope I'm making sense. So I'm gonna click enter so we can start the quiz. The question is, what category does the student visa fall under? 2 options. Is it immigrant visas or non-immigrant visas? You have 1 minute to respond. maybe in the meantime, I can ask the consular officer, is this a confusion that people have? Do people usually differentiate between non-immigrant visas and immigrant visas, or is that, does it not come up at all? Or
Sure. So I think there is some confusion, and I don't want to give away the answer just yet. But in short, immigrant visas are for people who want to move to the United States permanently, usually because they have a family member that already lives in the United States or is a US citizen, or if they find a job that's willing to sponsor them to become a green card holder in the future. And then the non-immigrant visa side, those are for people who want to travel to the United States for tourism, maybe to visit those family members, but obviously still live here in Tunisia, or work, and most of you got it right, so work or study in the US on a short-term basis. So good job everyone, attendees.
that's great, thank you. Yeah, it's interesting that some people did say maybe it falls under the category of immigrant visa. So let's keep in mind that student visa is a non-immigrant visa type that might be helpful in just understanding the whole process of studying in the US and everything. So that's good. Okay, we wanted to start with that question for you, everybody who is in the audience. Now let's say what we have next. Types of student visas. Consular officer.
Great. So we have a couple of different types of student visas. The three primary ones are, we call them FMJ visas. So you may see that on some of our website material. As the education advisor said, the most common is the F1 visa for a university or a college program. These are for undergraduate studies, so the college level in the United States, also for master's, higher education, and PhD or doctorate programs. Those are almost always all on F1 visas. The major exception to that are if either the Tunisian government or the US government sponsors your program and pays for part of your education. That will sometimes be on a J1 or exchange visitor program. J1s can also be for au pairs or internships or some other kinds of programs that are not quite student related. So we won't talk about those today. We also have M1 visas, which are for vocational or trade school. So if you are going to culinary school in the United States, flight training, those are some of the more common programs that use M1 visas. And then a little less common, but does happen, sometimes we have short periods, short classes, like a 3 or 4 week English language training class, or a kind of an educational summer camp in the United States. If it's part-time, if it's not 40 hours a week, those can be done sometimes on B2 visas, which is a tourist visa. And then all of those different visa types, the FMs and Js, they all have family members. So this is more for students doing a longer term program or a higher education master's type program. We don't usually see a lot of undergraduate students with a spouse or children, but your family members can come on an F2, M2, or J2 visa. So those are kind of the broad types that we have.
Thank you. That is very good to know. All right. Next, this was, I think, a screenshot from the website. Anything to add on this one?
Yes, just that I forgot that high school students are also eligible for an F visa. You can do a year of high school study or a semester of high school study in the States at the high school level. Sometimes those are also J visas. I know the embassy sponsors the YES program, where students get to spend a year of their high school in the United States with a host family. So it's not just necessarily at the college or university level, although those are our most common students.
Thank you. That's good. Okay. Another question or quiz. No, it's not a quiz actually. It's just a question. We're curious if anybody in the audience has applied for the student visa to the US before. Yes or no question. Just curious. We want to know if you had previous experience with the student visa with the US Embassy. Okay, some responses are coming in. It's good to see that some people have actually applied for the student visa in the past. Okay, maybe they have gone on a program, maybe they were denied, we'll see in the coming slides. That's good, okay, good to know. Thanks everyone for voting. Let's see what we have next. The next subtopic, I guess, for the day is very important. What are the necessary steps, the forms, and the fees for the student visa? And we will hear this information from the consular officer.
Great. So one of the first steps is paying the SEVIS fee. Once you've been accepted to a program and you are ready to apply for your student visa, you'll need to go online and pay a fee to the Department of Homeland Security for the SEVIS program. This program allows you to allows your international office to be in touch with the immigration officials to make sure that you always stay what we call in status, so you don't have any trouble, particularly for students that are on long-term programs where you may want to come home to Tunisia for the summer. If you are in status in SEVIS, that's not a problem. You'll be able to exit the United States and re-enter the United States on the same visa as long as you're in the status in SEVIS. So you can either pay that online or with EducationUSA at Amid East, and you'll need to bring your receipt to your visa interview.
Thank you, Officer. I just want to highlight that we have an international card for academic payments for the students. So if you want to process this payment, please respect your deadlines before your visa interview and give us at least 2 weeks notice. You can feel free to email us at the tunis@educationusa.org, send your I-20 document, and then we will be in touch with you for the payment process.
Nice, thank you so much. Okay, next is filling out the online app.
Okay, so next, as someone who does the visa interviews, this is what I think is probably the most important part, is fill out your online visa application. It's called the DS-160. And then the website where you can fill that online is in this slide. You also can go to US Travel Docs. So US Travel Docs, like document with an S, .com, and they can walk you through the process. So you'll fill out a form. It will ask you information like your name, your date of birth, where you were born in Tunisia, information about the school you're applying for, a lot of different kinds of information. So you'll fill that form out and you'll upload a photograph. We see this all the time. It needs to be on a white background with no glasses, or you'll come in for your interview and you'll have to come back with a new photo. It takes longer for everyone. So, so read the details and do it the first time. And then you'll also print out that confirmation page and bring it to your interview as well. Okay, and then kind of alongside the filling out the form, you'll also do step 3, which is pay the visa fee. It's $160, and it's a fee for the interview, not necessarily for the visa. So unfortunately, if you're not successful in getting the visa, you won't be able to get a refund of your fee. But you can pay it at Tajari Bank, and you'll also bring that receipt in. And once you have your receipt from Tajari Bank, you can schedule an interview, which is, I'm sure, the next slide. There we go. See, I've been doing this just a little bit. So this is where you'll use that website, ustraveldocs.com. This is where you'll schedule your appointment. Right now, as Narjis said, my American Center colleague said, we're in the COVID time and things are a little different than normal. Normally, you can go onto ustraveldocs.com and just schedule an appointment a few weeks out. But now we have kind of a special procedure. The US Embassy is open for student visa appointments. I'm sure many of you, you're tuning into this session, so I know you're interested in student visas. You've probably been watching the news in the US. The US government went back and forth a little bit about how we were gonna do student visas for the fall semester. Students are permitted to travel to the United States for partially online and partially in-person programs for the fall semester. So you can get a visa appointment. What you'll do is you'll go to the US Travel Docs website and make an appointment. It'll probably honestly at this point be in September or October. And then you can request what's called an emergency appointment. So we'll ask that all students do that. Make your appointment for September. We know that that's after your program start date. Don't be worried. Ask for an emergency appointment and it will be approved. And we're trying to do visa appointments at least once a week for students so that all students can get to the US before the start of their program. Like the EducationUSA advisor said, it's important to try to do it as early as possible. If you tell me on August 1st that you need to be in the US on August 4th for the program start, that's probably not going to happen. It's going to be very challenging for us to accommodate that appointment. So do it as early as possible and we'll get you in as early as we can. Okay, and then the last part of the pre-interview process, as we say, is to get all the documentation that you'll need. If you are on a laptop, I would suggest taking a picture of this slide because I think it's very helpful. As somebody in the comments mentioned earlier, you do need a valid passport. We can't do that for you at the US Embassy. You need to get that from the government of Tunisia. So you'll need a passport. It should be valid for at least 1 year, just so that you don't have any trouble entering the US. You'll need your DS-160 form and the printed out confirmation page. It's got a little barcode, kind of like a QR code on it. You'll need your visa fee receipt for the $160 you paid at Attajari Bank. We always ask that you bring an extra photo just in case. Again, white background, no glasses. You'll bring your I-20, which again, someone mentioned in the comments. This is the form you'll get from the school. And I know we took some questions ahead of time. It's okay now if it's just digital. We understand that that's the mail has been slow because the borders have been closed. So it's okay if it's digital. The officer can look it up in your interview for you on the computer. But if you have a copy, that would be great if you can print it out. You'll bring your SEVIS receipt from that fee you paid in step 1. And then we always ask that you bring transcripts and from your schools here in Tunisia, your grades from your classes here, and then bank documents. So they might be yours or they might be your parents or whoever's paying for your program. If you have any kind of scholarship from the university, we'd ask that you bring a letter explaining that what the scholarship amount is. Basically, what we're looking for is how are you going to pay for the program?
Nice. That's excellent. Very clear.
And I just want to comment like really quick about bringing the bank statements and a proof of a scholarship. Usually in your I-20 document, you will find like the school code along with the amount of the scholarship of the university. Sometimes you have like a kind of a cost share situation where the parents are bridging a gap, like they're paying, as an example, like 20% of the amount, and the university is giving you a scholarship like 80%. The good thing is that your I-20 document is unique with your SEVIS ID number and also the financial breakdown of the scholarship or your personal budget. But it's also very helpful to have these bank statements, as the officer mentioned. So if they ask you for any additional document, you have them on the spot.
Yeah, that's great. I should say they're not required. You don't have to bring them, but we like that to see them if you can, just in case, as she said, the consular officer.
Great. That's very helpful to know. Thank you. Okay. Next, final subtopic for the day, I think, is preparing for your interview, another very important step. So we'll hear more from the consular officer.
Great. So I think this is what people think is the scariest part of the visa process, is the interview. I hope in talking to me, maybe you'll feel a little bit less scared going into it. I am someone who does the visa interviews. I don't think I'm that scary. I think I'm usually less intimidating than I probably could be. So thanks American Center colleague. So there's a couple of different parts of the interview process. I'm going to walk you through them just so you know. I like to know going into a new situation what to expect. So now you will too. First, you'll do what we call intake. For the US Embassy, what that involves is going through a security screening like you kind of would for an airport. You know, we want to make sure our facility is safe for you and for us. You'll have to leave your cell phone in the, you know, not with you in the interview. So just keep that in mind. A lot of students say, oh, well, I have a picture of my document on my cell phone. If you can print it out, that's much better. You won't have your cell phone during the interview. So I also recommend people bring a good book to read. Sometimes you can have to wait a little bit. But so you'll come inside, you'll go through the security screening. And then when you walk in, one of my Tunisian colleagues will take your passport and take your documents and just do kind of an initial check, what we call intake. They'll check your photo. They might tell you you need a new photo. They'll check your passport. They might tell you, oh, your passport expires in 2 months. To enter the United States, your passport has to be valid for at least 6 months. So they'll look for things like that. And then they'll take your fingerprints on a digital scanner. They'll take all 10 fingerprints. So they'll do that. And then they'll have you sit down with your passport. And then the officer will call you hopefully a few minutes later. Like I said, sometimes we get a little behind. And you'll do your interview. For most programs, we prefer that the interview be in English because most of you are going to programs where English is the main language of study, the main language of instruction. Obviously, the major exception to that is if you're going to learn English in the United States, you don't need to speak English already, but we like to see that you've started to learn or that you can speak a little bit. Again, partially for your comfort level in your studies, but also for your safety. The worst thing for us would be if you get to the United States and maybe you're in a car accident and you don't understand what the emergency workers are trying to explain to you. So we want to make sure you're safe and that you're ready to start your studies in the United States. So you'll have your interview. The officer will ask you some questions. Where are you going? What will you study? Why did you choose this program? So what you'll want to be able to do is talk about your goals. And this kind of goes back to the most important step 1, the research step, where you really should be able to explain, hey, I'll use mine. I went to the George Washington University, GW. It's in Washington, D.C. And so I picked GW because I wanted to go to a college that was in a city and I wanted to study international affairs so that I could do this job, that I could be a diplomat. So that's kind of, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to write me a paper or write me an essay about how, you really picked this school, but just be able to explain it in a few words. You'll also want to be able to explain how you are going to pay for the program, as I said. So if your parents are helping, that's great. If you have a scholarship, that's fantastic. If a family friend is paying, just be able to show their documents as well. And then the third thing we want to kind of get an idea about is what are your plans after your program? Do you want to come back to Tunisia and pursue a master's degree? Do you want to, if you're studying biology, do you want to be a doctor or do you want to be a biologist? Just be able to talk a little bit about what you'll do after the program. But we know you're a student and that will change. What I wanted to do at 18 is not exactly what I wanted to do now. So just be able to give me a little bit of an idea about that. And you'll be told right then and there in your interview whether or not you got the visas. So we'll tell you then. And then if for some reason you didn't get approved, don't fret. It's not the end of the world. You can apply again. We ask that when you apply again, you kind of take a look at your documents, make sure everything was in order, make sure you gave the best explanations that you could, and sometimes understand that maybe you wouldn't get a different answer if you reapplied. For example, if the officer tells you, hey, your grades aren't very good, and maybe, we don't know that you'll be successful in that program, that may not change if you reapply. So just try to be realistic about the process. So those are my kind of helpful hints.
Thank you. That is super, super helpful. Okay, let's see. I think we have a quiz up next. Back to your devices, everybody. Just in case we have a few people joining in the middle of the session and you did not really catch up, go to menti.com, enter the code that you see on the screen here. It's always on the top of the screen. The question is, the chat with the consular officer during the student visa interview has to be in English, except if, what is the exception or the main exception, I think? Type your answer real quick on your device. Let's see if you caught that. The consular officer did talk about this. The chat with the consular officer during the student visa interview is normally in English, has to be in English, but there's one main exception or big exception. Again, please forgive the streaming delay on Facebook. The correct answer is program designed to learn English. That is great. You're learning English in the US, that's correct. You're going to study English in the US, that's correct. You're going to be learning English there, correct. She doesn't speak English. Nope, I don't think that's the case. Maybe the consular officer can say a bit about that.
So all of the consular officers are Americans. All of the consular officers are American. So everyone in the consular section speaks English. So hopefully that wouldn't be a problem. But the other 5 look fantastic. Thanks for paying attention, everyone.
Yeah, that's excellent. I'm just gonna quickly mark them correct. We're going to learn English. That's excellent. It's really good to see that people are paying attention and you understood that. So the interview needs to be in English. Great. Up next, if the visa is approved.
All right, so if your visa is approved, which I would say the Tunisians have Tunisia has a pretty good rate of student visa exceptions. So like I said, or acceptance, excuse me. So like I said, don't be nervous. Just come in and be honest and be as well prepared as you can. If your visa is approved, you'll be told this at the time of the interview, as I mentioned, and you'll have to leave your passport at the embassy. Our normal processing time pre-COVID was about 2 business days. Now that can be up to 1 week. It's just taking us a little longer. We can't have as many colleagues in the office at the same time so that we're keeping both ourselves safe and you safe. Don't buy your ticket before the visa interview. I know if you go on the internet and you research how to apply for a visa to the United States, sometimes they tell you to buy a ticket ahead of time. It's not something that I would do, especially if it's not refundable. So I would wait until you have your visa in your hand, in your passport, to buy your ticket, just in case. I know a lot of you have written papers at very late at night only to turn around and try to print it and the printer stops working. That happens to us too. So, if you buy a ticket to leave on Tuesday because your visa interview is Friday, but the printer stops working, that's not good. So wait until you pick your passport up to buy your plane tickets. And then EducationUSA advisor earlier said they do a pre-departure orientation. We highly recommend that. It helps set you up for success and to be a successful student. So I would add that as if your visa is approved, go to the pre-departure orientation and then get ready to study hard and have a good time. I would note that some programs, sometimes, just when you get your visa or, your program can maybe take a little longer than the 4 years or 5 years your visa is valid for. So if you come back in to reapply for a visa for the same program, we would usually ask to see the transcripts from your university. So if you go to the US and you never go to class and you don't pay attention and you don't study hard, that's not going to look very good when you have to come back in for your second visa. That's not a good thing. So, being able to study in the United States is wonderful and we love to facilitate that, but make sure you take it seriously.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Let's see. We have one final question, I think. It's a quiz. I can enter the US with my student visa 2 months before the start of the program. Is that true or false? Back to your devices, everybody. Especially if you're on Facebook, really, really quick, because there's a streaming delay, so you will only have a few seconds to catch the question. Hopefully it's pretty straightforward. It's just a true or false statement. Can you enter the US with your student visa 2 months before the start of the program? Let's see. I believe this was mentioned earlier.
I may have forgotten to mention it, so if you don't know the answer, that's okay.
No worries, yes. Okay, time's up. All right.
You guys know a lot about the process. This is wonderful. So I forgot to mention in the timeline, we say as early as possible, as early as possible, as early as possible. This year, it's probably a little less of a problem because it's already July. But normally your student visa can't be issued until 120 days before the start of your program. So that's about 4 months. So if your program starts in August, you can't come to do your visa interview before April. Even if you get all your paperwork done in December, you have to wait. And then once you have your student visa, you can enter the United States 30 days, so 1 month before the start of your program, so that you can get settled. You can, buy books that you need to buy, get your house all set up. But you're going to want to be in touch with your university and the International Student Office about when you should arrive before your program.
Awesome, that's very clear. Important to keep the timeline in mind. Advisor, did you want to say something here?
Yes, because the officer mentioned the pre-departure orientation and what to expect for them to apply. For the time being, we have a virtual session. It's like a series of different sessions on our Facebook page, and our colleague will provide you with a link. So please, we invite you July 29th to attend the virtual session on getting ready for your study, to talk about job campuses, the curricular practical training, the optional practical training, what to expect, and again, how to maintain your visa status, to be able to hear from different university representatives, but also to get to know the process more. So we always ask you to stay tuned and on the pages and to check these useful events.
Yes, thank you so much for mentioning that. And we will confirm the date with posting on our Facebook page, both the US Embassy Tunis and Education USA Tunisia. All right, leaving the United States, back to the consular officer.
Sure. So I talked about this a little bit in terms of leaving in and out, if you're doing a 4-year program, for example. But once your program ends, you have 60 days after the program end date. So for most students, this is graduation. As I mentioned at the very beginning, it will go through the SEVIS, S-E-V-I-S program. Those are the dates you should pay attention to. So you should always be in touch with your International Student Office about updating that system. If you are what we call out of status for 5 months, you'll need a new SEVIS number and a new visa. So you have to do the whole process again. Don't recommend that. But we understand things happen. If you have something in your family, or I'm sure a lot of you can understand, we had a lot of issues with when COVID broke out. Students had to leave in the middle of their program. Like I said, talk to your International Student Office. There are ways to make your SEVIS inactive for a semester and reactivate it. We're trying to be as flexible as we can. So just keep in touch with them. Your student visas are usually valid for 5 years, but for the visa, you must have that same SEVIS number. It'll be printed on your visa. So if you get a new SEVIS number, you'd need a new visa. A new SEVIS number is usually if you start a new program, if you leave and come back, sometimes you'll get a new SEVIS number on your I-20 form. As we said, family and children can accompany. Children can study if your children are on F2 status. Again, these are all things you should talk about with your international student advisor. They have a lot of experience, so they can help you. And then sometimes the family members can work in the United States in very limited capacities. You also can sometimes work in the US on your F1 visa. Usually that's designed for work study programs if you get a job at the university, but it also can extend to internships, or especially if you're in the STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and math. You can do what we call OPT or CPT, optional or continual practical training, No, I know I'm throwing a lot of acronyms at you. Basically what this is you would, through your program, you might get an internship or a position right after you graduate to work in the field that you studied, particularly engineering or even architects, or there's a variety of fields that do OPT and CPT. But again, this is all stuff you want to do through the International Student Office. Immigration policy is not something you want to strike out on your own and try to find a job on your own outside of the process. It can end up with bad consequences. So make sure you talk to your student office if you want to pursue working in the US after the end of your studies.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That's clearly very important. Sorry. Okay, let's see what we have next. Q&A. This is great. Okay. A note about the Q&A before we start taking questions. These questions have already been submitted in advance. Actually, we asked people who registered on Zoom to submit the questions when they registered, but we also asked you on Facebook, for anybody who is tuning in on Facebook in advance in the event on Facebook, to submit questions in advance. So everybody had the option or the chance to submit questions, and we compiled them in advance. So we will go through the questions that were submitted in advance and were relevant to today's topic, which is the student visa. We recognize that some of the questions that were submitted were about other things like scholarships or financing your studies, and also completing the application or researching your options, etc., which are things or topics that we have covered in previous information sessions. So we hope that you will be able to watch the recordings of our previous sessions. Today, we will stick with the student visa topic. Okay, let's see. The first question that came in for us was, how do I know if I'm eligible for a student visa?
Sure. So anyone who's looking to study in the United States is eligible for a student visa, but you would need to have been accepted into a program to really qualify. So you don't have to be, 18 to 21 and starting university to be eligible, but you do have to have been accepted into an accredited institution. So I think today we focused a lot on the college and the master's level, but that also can be for English language programs, which may be through something like Kaplan or a community college. So it just has to go through an accredited institution, and that's determined for us, the visa officers, by whether or not you're issued an I-20 for your form, or for those of you who are familiar with the J program, a DS 2019, which is almost the same thing, same idea.
Thank you. That's very helpful. I'm going to mark this question answered. Before we go to the next question, I just want to say that some of the questions that were submitted have already been answered during the session with the slides and everything. So some of the answers can or will be short because we have already answered them. Okay, let's see, next question. Can I apply for F1 visa for the fall semester 2020?
So short answer, yes, this was answered before, but one additional sentence, you should do that as soon as possible. The fall semester in the United States will start in August or early September, and it's already the end of July, so you should definitely do that as soon as you can.
Excellent, that is very good to know. Next question, does my occupation, which is mentioned on my ID, affect my chances in getting a student visa? For example, unemployed?
To be perfectly honest with you, I don't know that I'd ever looked at your occupation on your ID. No, if you're a student, we understand that you would be unemployed. What the most important thing that any visa officer is looking for are your plans to eventually return to your home country, or really at the end of the day, legally stay in your student status. So if the officer thinks that you're getting a student visa to try to go get a job outside the student process, that wouldn't be good. But no, your occupation on your ID wouldn't affect that.
That's nice to know. Thank you. Next question. In which cases your student visa gets rejected?
So the thing that's tricky about visa applications is there's no one size fits all answer. I would say for me, having done a lot of student interviews here and in the last country I was assigned, students that aren't prepared, students that really struggle to hold a basic conversation in English, if the program of study is English, that can lead to your visa being rejected. Again, as much for your safety as for the quality of your education. If you're unable to prove that you can pay for the first year of your program, which is what's required, or if we think there's doubts that you'll be able to pay for all of it. And students, I think, that can't explain why they've chosen this program or why they want to study in the United States, those are, for me, things that may lead to your visa getting rejected.
Great, that's helpful. Next question, is the student visa expensive? I think we talked about the fees throughout the session today.
I think we talked about the fees. I don't think it's not very it's not the most affordable. It's a little more than a baguette, I would say. But I think studying in the United States is a great opportunity. I know that there are programs and scholarships for the cost of the education. I'm not, to be honest, not sure if that would, some of those scholarships could be used to defray the cost of your student visa as well. But it's definitely something we're working into. I don't know if EducationUSA advisor, if you have any resources that students can look at for that kind of paying those fees.
So for the visa, unfortunately, it's not like the application fees or some other fees when you can get like some fee waivers from universities. The visa fees, you may have some resources. I've seen before that with your I-20 document, certain universities, they offer to pay for the service fee, which is like the $350. It's part of the scholarship package or the financial aid package. Sometimes they ask students, especially I've seen this in certain liberal arts colleges, where universities ask students to pay for their service and their visa, and then they will reimburse them later as soon as they are on campus. So I think it's a case-by-case scenario, and also it depends. But students should be able to ask these questions to their vis-a-vis from the university or their academic advisor for international student office.
That's nice. Thank you so much. The next question, when will you resume visa interviews?
So already answered, but we are doing them now for students. If like I mentioned, you'll go on to ustraveldocs.com. All of that, the website is on our website. It's on the Facebook page. You can find it pretty easily, and you'll request what's called an emergency appointment. It'll ask you for a little sentence or two about why it's an emergency. Just say, I'm a student. If you can include your program start date, that helps us prioritize, getting students in as quickly as we can. But yes, we are currently doing student visa interviews.
Excellent, that's very good news. Okay, is there a big chance that a student visa gets rejected, or is it a rare case? What are some tips to improve your chances and make sure you get accepted? We kind of answered this, but we can.
I feel like this one we talked about a lot, but yeah, I think, it's not, I wouldn't say it's super common that students get rejected. Like I said, if you're what we call a bona fide student, if you're a credible student, we really want to help you get to the US. So just be as prepared as you can. Participating in something like this is fantastic. It shows that you're interested and you want to be prepared. And then I would watch the videos that EducationUSA put together, and I would make sure you have all your documents together just to be as prepared as you can be.
That's very good. Okay, helpful. How can I pay for my service fee if I can't pay online?
I'm going to let EducationUSA answer that.
Exactly. Thank you. So again, we mentioned this before, but we're happy to re-emphasize that, especially for those who joined us maybe a little bit later in the process or in the session. So we ask you to actually email us in advance, and you can pay through the EducationUSA Amethyst International card for any academic payments. So for today's session, we can pay and help you pay the service fee. You just need to contact us in advance, meaning at least 2 weeks. Sometimes the website is down, sometimes the website is on maintenance, sometimes like the transaction doesn't go through. So please, just in case, don't don't mess with your deadlines. So help us help you. Respect your deadlines so that we can better assist you. But we can definitely offer this part of the Education USA advising services. So even if we are working virtually, and I want to remind people and highlight that the advising services are still working virtually, we can get in touch with each other via email, and I will walk you through the steps to be able to do this payment. So don't worry, you can pay us with dinars, and then we can process your payment online, and I will send you the receipt so that you can take it to your interview along with all the other documents that you already gathered.
On that note, you also can pay your visa $160 visa fee at Attajari in dinar as well. You don't have to have dollars ahead of time.
That's excellent. Thank you. All right. How can I schedule an appointment while the embassy remains closed due to COVID-19?
Okay, that one we did answer, so maybe we'll move on. So US travel docs, request an emergency appointment.
Great. Will the United States open borders for international students who have to be on campus for the fall term?
Yes. So again, we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but we are still able to issue visas. And if you already have an F1 visa, you will be allowed to travel to the US for your fall semester, fall 2020. You'll have to have an I-20, and there'll be specific I-20 designations. So just double check if you're a current or continuing student, double check in your SEVIS account that you may have a new I-20 you need to bring to the border with you. But yes, we are open for 2020.
That is great news. Okay. With a B1, B2, can I study there? These are some of the questions that were submitted in real time just now.
Sure. So short-term answer, not really. It is technically possible, but as I mentioned earlier, the worst thing you can do is kind of get in trouble with the immigration system. The B2 visa is designed for tourism, so you can do short-term, kind of think of it kind of like English language camp. So something that maybe the American Center would put on in a non-COVID time where it's a couple hours a day for a week or two. That's the kind of program that a B2 is designed for. Otherwise, you would need an F1 or J1 visa. The easy answer is if it's, and this is again, we're talking to the international office at the school will be helpful. If you need an I-20, you must have an F1 visa. Excellent,
thank you. I think this is going to be the final question for the day. Is there a possibility for emergency appointment for F1 student visa? I think we answered this.
Yes, we did. So that's right now, that's the only way to get a student visa appointment. Otherwise, I think speaking to my colleagues, the next available student visa appointment is in October, which is obviously a little late. So make sure you request the emergency appointment.
Thank you so much. This was very, very helpful. Great questions from everybody that were submitted in advance. I think we took one or two here in real time, and we haven't covered all of the questions. Some were relevant, some were not. Please join us again. We will continue to offer these information sessions. Check out the previous info sessions that we have available on our Facebook page to learn more. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much to the consular officer and the Education USA advisor for their time and expertise, sharing all of the information and answering the questions. Today, let's see what we have next. Just a couple of questions for everybody here. We just want to know, what is your overall assessment of this session? Was today's information session below your expectations? Do you prefer not to say? Did this meet your expectations, or did this exceed your expectations? We are curious. Oh, it's below your expectations, one person. This is probably somebody who submitted a question that was not accepted. We have very good reasons for not having been able to accept all of the questions. We do apologize for the inconvenience there. But just a reminder that we keep offering information sessions, and we have a few available that are recorded on our page. So please check that out. There's also the possibility to follow up with questions We have some email addresses that we can reach out, that you can reach out to. Maybe we can provide them in the comments section on Facebook. Okay, that's good to know. So for most people, this met their expectation or exceeded their expectation. There's one person who's angry at us. We are very sorry. We don't know what the reason is. Okay. Which of these platforms do you prefer for virtual events? This is more for the American Center to know. Most of the time we have been using Zoom, but we have also done a lot of Facebook Live. Today's session is on Zoom plus on Facebook, live on Facebook. So that's where you get the option or the choice. You can choose to join on Zoom, which is a little bit more private, or on Facebook, which is a bit more public. You're using your profile. Do you also like that we start using Microsoft Teams? Maybe some people aren't familiar yet with this platform. It's an excellent tool, actually. And there would also be another option to combine Microsoft Teams with Facebook Live. So you have the option to join us on Microsoft Teams or Facebook. If I were you, I would say Teams plus Facebook Live, because maybe it's not a familiar tool, but then I know that I have another option. I can join on Facebook if it doesn't work, but then I can learn a different tool. But that's just me personally. Okay, most people want either Zoom or Zoom plus Facebook Live. This is good to know, like today. Today is Zoom plus Facebook Live. Thanks, everybody. This is kind of like a quiz. It's not a quiz format, but what is the final step for studying in the US? We've covered this a million times now, and we think that you know the answer. There are 5 steps to studying in the US. We have covered steps 1, 2, and 3 in previous sessions. Today, we covered step number 4, which is applying for your student visa. Now, what is the final step? What do you need to do as the final step to study in the US? Just a few seconds for people to respond, and I'm going to hit the enter button so I can show what the winner option or response is. And I think it'll be the correct answer. Drumbeat. Preparing for your departure. Yes, that is correct. That is step number 5, and it is the final step for studying in the US. And that will be our topic for the next information session. So please stay tuned for that. Let's see what we have next. I think here is a Giphy that shows you how you can follow our Facebook page so you can stay tuned to join us for the next session, step number 5. And we highly recommend that you set your following to see first. By default, it is, it's not see first, but we recommend that you click on see first. So that way, every time you access your Facebook feed, you will see our page first thing and our announcements, which include our events and info sessions about studying in the US. You should probably do the same for EducationUSA Tunisia Facebook page. Again, set the following to see first. That way you can learn more and more about studying in the US. There are so many other postings that the advisor posts every week. And so we think you could benefit a lot from that. So again, see first is your best friend on Facebook. And finally, if you prefer to receive emails about our event announcements, then enter your email address and submit. Again, this is on your device, like you did for the previous sessions, for the previous questions throughout today's session. So we will send you email notifications about our events that have to do with studying in the US. We have several mailing lists. So here we're talking about the specific mailing list about studying in the US. Okay, I guess with that, we have arrived to the end of our information session for the day. Again, thank you to all of you who have joined us. Thank you to our friends on Zoom, and thank you to our audience on Facebook. We really hope that you got value, a lot of value from today's session. You can go ahead and watch it again, watch the recording again. It'll be sitting on our Facebook page in the playlist. And thank you again, tremendous thank you to the consular officer and the Education USA advisor. And we wish everybody good luck, and we hope that you will stay healthy. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.